The first case of strange death on this list could probably have its own video entirely, and it is definitely one of the more well-known cases that I am going to cover in this video. Brandon Lee was a rising star in the early 1990s and wanted to follow in the footsteps of his legendary father and go into acting. He was cast in the lead role of the film The Crow, directed by Alex Proyas. The film focuses on a murdered musician who was resurrected to avenge the death of himself and his fiancée. The film was intended to be Lee's breakthrough role and was based on the comic book series of the same name. On the 31st of March 1993, the crew were filming the scene in which Lee's character is shot with a prop gun, which was supposed to have been filled with blanks. However, the gun was fired and Lee was struck in the abdomen and immediately collapsed. He was then rushed to hospital. Despite several hours of surgery, he died from his injuries at the age of 28. So what happened to him? When a gun is loaded in films, they are loaded with hollowed out cartridges. They are then supposed to be replaced with blanks before being shot. This is kind of what happened on the set of The Crow, but due to budget restraints, they modified their own blanks from live bullets to save money and time. The police investigation found that one of the bullets broke off and lodged into the gun, which was then fired out of the gun along with the blank. Although many conspiracy theorists believe that the death of Brandon Lee was more sinister, even tying it to the Chinese mafia, the shooting was ruled an accident. Linda Lee, Lee's mother, filed a lawsuit against the filmmakers in August 1993, alleging negligence for her son's death. The lawsuit was settled 2 months later for an undisclosed sum. The death of Brandon Lee was a shock to his family, friends and fans, and left many wondering what career he might have had if he had lived. The film The Crow was released a year later and dedicated to his memory, and became a cult classic that is still loved to this day. Jimmy Heldon was a British entrepreneur from Leeds, England, born in 1948. Leaving school at 15, he started work as a coal miner, but was later laid off during the industry's downturn. This loss led him to launch Hesco Bastion in 1989. Using his redundancy money, he invented Hesco barriers, collapsible wire mesh containers that, when filled with earth or sand, provide effective fortifications for military use and flood defences. Widely used in conflict zones and disaster responses, Heldon's invention brought him significant wealth and recognition, including an OBE in 2006 for his contributions to defence and charity. With a keen sense of innovation and a desire to help others, Heldon channeled much of his wealth into charity causes, donating over $23 million to various initiatives including the Leeds Community Foundation. In December 2009, he purchased Segway Inc., the company behind the iconic two-wheeled self-balance vehicle. He did this hoping to foster its development as an eco-friendly transport option. In September 2010, less than a year after acquiring Segway Inc., Heldon died in an accident involving one of the Segway models. The incident occurred on a Sunday morning as Heldon was out riding a Segway model near his home in Thorpe Arch, West Yorkshire. He was out riding a narrow path that ran close to a steep cliff overlooking the River Wharfe. This is where he encountered a dog walker. According to the coroner's report and witness accounts, Heldon attempted to reverse his Segway to give the other person more room to pass safely. Unfortunately, in his effort to be courteous, he lost control of the device, causing it to slip over the edge and fall. Heldon fell about 30 feet into the river below, suffering fatal injuries that led to his death. The tragic death of Jimmy Heldon cast a shadow over Segway Inc., which continued to operate for several years before its eventual shutdown in 2020. Heldon's family, friends, and the broader community mourned his loss, remembering him for his generosity, humility, and contributions to defence and disaster relief. His estate, valued at $340 million, was left to his family, with much of his charitable legacy continuing to benefit Leeds and the surrounding area. The next case almost has to be seen to be believed, and is perhaps the most unlucky case of death in today's video. David Grumman was a 24-year-old man who lived in Arizona in the United States. In 1982, he and his friend went out into the desert with a shotgun to have some fun shooting at cacti. Unfortunately, things went horribly wrong when one of the cacti he shot fell on top of him, killing him instantly. That day, David packed his shotgun and drove into the desert and stopped off just west of Lake Pleasant. According to reports, he had been shooting at various types of cacti, including saguaro, which can grow up to 40 feet tall and weighs several tons. A few hours into the day, he took aim at one of the cacti that was 26 feet tall,
blasting holes in the trunk of the bottom. As he shot the last time, the cacti fell on Grumman and he was crushed. The arm of the cacti impaled him with spikes, and his friend who was with him at the time called for help, but it was too late. Grumman died on the scene. Grumman had reportedly been drinking and smoking marijuana before the incident, which may have impaired his judgment, and the death was ruled accidental. Ironically, the saguaro cactus is a protected plant, but that day it wasn't the plant that needed protecting.
Since 2011, selfie-related incidents have led to at least 425 deaths worldwide. The motivations behind these tragedies are largely rooted in the pursuit of social media engagement, with people often risking their lives to capture unique or dramatic photos. Common causes of these fatal accidents include falling from great heights, drowning, and injuries from transportation or encounters with dangerous animals. Most victims are young, with a significant number of fatalities occurring in individuals under 30. One case of death by selfie occurred in August of 2014 and involved a Polish couple and their 2 children on a day trip out in Portugal. During this trip, they visited Cabo da Roca, which is located on Portugal's western coast and is renowned for its dramatic, rugged cliffs that rise sharply from the Atlantic Ocean. These rocky cliffs, often towering over 100 metres high, present a stunning yet hazardous landscape, making it a popular yet risky spot for tourists. Whilst there, the couple spotted a perfect spot for a photo. They told their children to wait in a spot for them and proceeded to climb over a safety barrier and climb up the rocky cliffs to take a selfie together. Whilst on top, the couple stepped backwards to find the perfect angle, but in doing so, tumbled off the edge of the cliff into the ocean below. This happened in front of their 2 children. Sadly, their bodies were found the next day, and their traumatised children had to undergo psychiatric care. A selfie is never worth your death.
Vladimir Valkolin and Igor Chikasov were simply 2 Russian men on their way to work when tragically they lost their lives in a sinkhole accident in 2014. The incident occurred in the city of Penza, located in western Russia. It was early morning in the city and the 2 men were on their way to work and had reached the car park they had parked in for years. This is when the ground suddenly gave way beneath their car, causing them to fall into the sinkhole that had opened up in the middle of the car park. Onlookers watched on as the 2 men, trapped in their car, plummeted into the ground. The sinkhole was approximately 4 metres deep and 6 metres wide. Despite efforts by bystanders to help the pair, they died almost instantly after being boiled alive by the 75 degrees Celsius waters below them. The cause of the sinkhole was believed to be a result of a collapsed underground sewer pipe. The incident shocked the community and the local authorities responded by evacuating nearby residents and closing off the area to investigate and repair the damage. Water company T+ promised to pay compensation to the families of the dead men and meet the costs of their funerals. One woman said, "What a horrendous way to die. One moment you are driving a car, the next, underground drowning in hot water." They parked and the road collapsed right under them.
As the Global News article on this next case of strange death states, eat too fast and you might choke. There really isn't much strange about that statement, it's basic common sense. However, where this next case becomes strange was what followed after the death. In August of 2019, the Fresno Grizzlies, a minor league baseball team based in Fresno, California, held a taco eating contest for locals in the area. If you didn't know, a taco eating contest is a competitive event where participants race to eat as many as they can within a set time limit. One of the contestants that day was 41-year-old Dana Hutchings. From reports, this was his first ever eating competition, and before it, he drank a few beers. Prior to the beers, he had been fasting for the competition. So it began, and the contestants began eating the tacos in front of them as fast as they could, and Dana was putting on an impressive show. Witness Eric Smith told ABC News he was hungry, you could tell. He was winning because he was starving. Another person watching said, it was like he'd never eaten before. He was just shoving the tacos down his mouth without chewing. However, some minutes in, disaster struck and Dana began choking. People around him rushed to his aid, but they thought he was having a heart attack, so tried CPR on a defibrillator. This was no use, and sadly, he suffocated to death. Although tragic, you would think this would be the end of it, but his family decided to sue the competition. They filed a lawsuit against Fresno Sports, claiming they did not warn him about the risk and dangers of eating tacos too quickly. They even hired a lawyer who said that during professional competitions, contestants are trained and know exactly what they are doing, but with amateur ones, this isn't the case. He said, "That is not always present in an amateur eating contest. The conductors of this event should have made the risks known to the competitors and taken steps to protect them." They also claim that alcohol sold to contestants upped the risk of something like this happening. The results of this lawsuit were never made public, but they would have had to prove that Dana straight up had no idea about the risks involved, so more than likely, they would have lost.
In 2003, Kevin McKeon, who was 25 years old and living in Somerset, England, was walking home from the pub when he dropped his phone into a drain. Reports noted that it was a new, expensive phone, so Kevin obviously tried to retrieve it. He decided to lift the drain cover and get on his hands and knees to try and fish it out. Obviously, he had been drinking, which caused him to lose his balance, and he fell headfirst in. Kevin got stuck in the drain and drowned. A passerby walked past and was horrified to find his legs sticking out of the drain. His father said he thought that the drop was a couple of feet, but in this case it was 6 foot and half filled with water. 4 years later, halfway across the world, a 41-year-old man from Wisconsin found himself kind of in the same situation. Chris Van Aaron, a neighbour, said he saw the unnamed man kneeling over the sewer before he fell in. The man weighed over 300 pounds and whilst trying to retrieve his phone, became wedged in the storm drain. Chris then ran over and said, "I tried to pull him out. Absolutely helpless was the feeling. I couldn't budge him. I could see his head and shoulders were completely underwater." He went on to say, his legs weren't moving and he was completely unresponsive. Unable to free the man, the police were called. It took 6 firefighters to pull him out of the sewer, and his death was ruled as accidental. The phone was found at the bottom of the sewer a few hours later. The next strange case of death takes us to Israel, where in July 2022, a man died after being sucked into a sinkhole that formed at the bottom of a pool whilst attending a party at his friend's villa. About 25 miles west of Jerusalem is the town of Karmei Yosef. Here, 32-year-old Khalil Kimi was attending a pool party at his friend's villa. Reports state that at least 50 people were at the party, and 6 of them were in the swimming pool. The pool was built by the homeowner without permission or proper licensing. Seemingly out of nowhere, a sinkhole emerged at the bottom of the pool. A sinkhole emerges where water forms a hole in the ground. The water from the pool then began to get sucked into the bottom. The incident was captured on camera, and people can be heard talking in Hebrew. A man approached the sinkhole and slipped, but managed to back away. Unfortunately for Kimi, he was now dragged into the hole and was unable to get out. One victim said the water level suddenly started receding and a hole opened up, creating a vortex that swept 2 people inside. Another man was swept in but managed to get out with minor injuries. The police were called, and the remains of Kimi were found 4 hours later. In the aftermath, an investigation was launched which found that not only did the couple not have permission to build a pool, but the land on which they built it on was known for having infrastructure problems. The couple, who were both in their 60s, were arrested as they were suspected in causing death by negligence. The trial is still ongoing.
Tragic accidents occur in the most unexpected of ways, and the recent death of a South Carolina woman due to a beach umbrella well and truly confirms this. In August of 2022, Tammy Perrault, a 63-year-old woman from South Carolina, was enjoying a day at Garden City Beach with her husband of 27 years, Mike, and their 4 friends. Mike had met Tammy 29 years earlier and loved his wife dearly. He said, "She was one of a kind. After a couple years, I asked her to marry me. We got married at a beach in Jamaica." They were always together, and Tammy had recently retired, something she was greatly looking forward to. According to her husband, it was a nice but breezy day. The couple and their friend were set up on a beach when a massive gust of wind swept across. With this wind came a rental umbrella that had dislodged from the sand. The umbrella travelled 40 feet across the sand, and everyone ducked except Tammy, who did not see it in time. In a horrific turn of events, Tammy, who 30 seconds earlier had been laughing and smiling, was impaled by the umbrella. Her husband said, "It went through her arm into her ribcage. She bled out in maybe 30 or 40 seconds. After her death, her husband would say, It was just her and I all the time. Our friends said if you saw Mike, you saw Tammy, and if you saw Tammy, you saw Mike. Tammy loved everybody. She never had a bad word for anybody at all. May she rest in peace. As always, this is not an AI channel, I do everything myself, and if you appreciate my work, subscribe, and if you want to go the extra step to support the channel, maybe consider becoming a member. Let me know what you think about these cases in the comments below, and as always, thank you for watching.